This video of the Tax-Aide appointment system is intended for your site manager, the one who manages the appointments, and it's going to explain how to set up your site and the various parameters that are available to you, and also how to set up your time slot schedules. So here we go. Typically, what happens is that you will get an email and password, your own email, and a password to get access to your site. So let's put in your name, which is John Doe, and your email is john@x.test. I'll explain test in a bit. It would typically be your own real email. And we made a simple password of tax, T-A-X. And as a site manager, you get an option that your regular schedulers do not get. So we click on that first, and it opens up to your Apple Valley Senior Center. If there are other sites that you're allowed to manage, then there will be a drop-down list of those here. Perhaps we'll add one here in a little bit. You may only have the current name of the site in there. You can change it if you like. We do recommend that the name of the city comes first, so that if there are several sites in the city, that they're grouped together when lists are created for whatever reason. You may have to add the address and city. If you have a phone that you would like people to be able to call to ask questions or so on, you should put that in here. If your site has some kind of an email address where you would be accepting perhaps appointments or questions, then you can add that here. And if you have a website that you'd like people to direct to. All of these options are accompanied by short codes, these little things in names in brackets, and they can be inserted into an email message that can be sent out whenever an appointment is made, or whenever, if you're using the internet to be able to allow your taxpayers to make their own amendments, they'll automatically get one, which we do recommend that you use this using the internet scheduling. And you can modify this in any way you want. If you want to start over to this default message, then erase the whole message and it'll get replaced with the default. If you don't want to use this message, then you can always turn it off. Let's leave it on though, because we may see some opportunities for displaying the email from time to time here. So I mentioned that you can allow people from the internet to schedule their own appointment. If you're willing to do that, you check the box, and on the sign-in page that we originally started at, your site will then be listed as one that the user can get in and make their own appointment at your site. We do recommend, and we found this useful at our site, that towards the end of the season especially, if the number of idle appointment slots that are available is fewer than what the list of names that are on your callback list, sometimes called a waiting list, but we like callback list because there's more reasons why you need to call folks back other than just the fact they're waiting in queue for an appointment. But anyway, if that list is longer than the number of appointments, then it prevents those taxpayers from making their own appointment directly, but it does allow them to put their name on the callback list. So that comes in handy. Some folks would just as soon always only allow the internet folks to put their name on the callback list, and that way your schedulers can call them and talk to them and have a discussion with them to see if they really do need to make an appointment, or perhaps they have some things that are out of scope, whatever your process typically is. We've actually found that letting people do their own reservations seem to work out pretty well. And we haven't had any cases where we've had to turn somebody away either because they didn't have to file or they were out of scope. And then you can put in the dates for when your internet access is open for scheduling, and that'll appear on that sign-in list if the date has not yet passed. And then it closes off automatically on whatever date you choose. And we'll come back and talk about access from other sites in a little bit. So one of the other tabs on here is the schedulers, and we made some changes, so we definitely do want to make those changes. There was a save button down at the bottom that I did not click, but it asked me that question before we moved on to the schedulers tab. So John Doe is the only person that currently can be scheduled, and you're set up as the appointment manager. We also list all of the administrators for the system. Typically there might be one or two as a backup or something like that, but these are folks that you can get a hold of if you have a problem or have questions on how to set something up, or whatever help you might need. That's the go-to person. So we probably need to add some more schedulers. Let's add Amy Smith, and she has a phone number of 999-1234. Let's not give her a password for the moment, and let's say her email is amy at, and we'll use the same x.test. And if we send this out and save it, she'll get a message, an email message at that email address that gives her an initial password, sort of a gobbledygook password that she can sign in with and then change it to something that's more rememberable for her. If you don't want to do that, you can actually give her a password. Let's call it tax in the event that we want to sign in as her. And you have to, on all the Windows stuff, when you enter something into a field, you have to click out of the field before it actually takes effect. So we can save that. So one of the other things we can do is, if Amy decides then at some later point that she doesn't want to be working with you anymore, perhaps she can't, she has a login to the system, and she may wish to eventually come back and log in and make her own appointments online if you're doing that. So we can move her to the taxpayer list, which is the third tab. And then when we can go over to the taxpayer list, there she is. And this is a list of all the people who have called in and made their own appointments at your site. This does not list people that you make the reservation on by phone. The reason this list is here is so that you can manage it. After a couple of years, this list is going to get fairly long, and you can take a look at the last used column and decide whether or not to delete them. Similarly, if you have somebody who has scheduled themselves this way and discover that they would like to be one of your counselors, then you can move them back to the scheduler list. And there she is again. And then you can assign whatever level of permissions you want to give them. They can be an appointment manager. You can have multiple managers, or they can be a scheduler. So the other thing you can do is, if you have and let me say one other thing is, you can change the permissions in terms of your callback list and making appointments to either change or view or none at all. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in what people are allowed to do. If you have somebody at your senior center site that you would like to have make appointments, you can restrict them to putting them on the callback list, or you can let them have full capability just like any of your other regular schedulers. Whatever you'd like to do. If you have an ad hoc site that you would like to be able to schedule that also, you could mix it in with this one, but it's usually better to add another site of your own. And you can do this by going over to the site options, add a new site, and let's call this the Banana Ridge Library. And you can put in all the appropriate address information. And when you save it, what this does is it opens up this other site access box. It says that people at the Apple Valley Senior Center, that's you, are allowed to schedule at this site. So let's go over to that site again, and you have your schedulers here. And let's say that now Amy is interested in moving over to that site physically. Perhaps there's enough business there now that she's going to take over as their lead coordinator. You can actually move her to the Banana Ridge Library site. So she disappears from your list and she goes to the Banana Ridge Library. And if we have, and because you now are still have permission to schedule there, then you see that she's listed there as a scheduler. You could make her an appointment manager. You're listed there as an appointment manager. Now if you change this one, you're the only appointment manager for this site at the moment. You could make Amy a manager, then change your permissions to none or to scheduler, and you could actually spin this site off as a totally separate site if you wanted to do something like that. But anyway, there's a lot of flexibility. You could create a separate site perhaps just simply to create a special callback list so that people who are partway through their process and have to return another day because they've brought something or they need to bring something else with them the next time to finish up, you could create a special site just to produce a special callback list for those folks. And then you could print that out daily so that your check-in people know that here's a list of people that may show up today with stuff and we need to squeeze them in somehow. Or you could even schedule them. So I'm going to leave Banana Ridge Library here because we're going to do some scheduling now. So we go to Manage Appointments, and that takes us over to our calendar. There's no dates highlighted. We have both the Apple Valley Senior Center and Banana Ridge Library because you're a manager for both, so you can deal with either of those. And on this window there are several view buttons that are listed, and I'm going to come back to these after we set up some slots just so that you know again what they do. So we're going to the options and permissions takes you back to where we were before on the other screen. So we're going to configure appointment slots, and again as manager you have access to these two. This menu item won't even be here for your typical schedulers. So we're going to add some slots, and let's choose Apple Valley, and we're going to add a Monday and Thursday site for them from August 15th through, let's say, November, I don't know, 15th or something like that. So all the Mondays and Thursdays between 8:15 and 11:15 we're going to put in let's say 5 slots at 8 a.m. Let's make it 9 o'clock. 8 o'clock is kind of early. And for the moment we're not going to reserve any, but maybe, yeah, let's reserve a couple for that very first period, perhaps for people who are going to return. So 5 maybe at 10 o'clock, and maybe 5 at 11 o'clock, and let's do 5 more at noontime. And then we do a go, and you see the dates light up, and the green indicates that there are slots available, and it shows what they are. The green ones show they're open. The ones in yellow have some slots that are reserved. So the question is, when you go to make appointments, do you want to actually go to the day, which you can get to by clicking that, or back to the summary again, do you want to make it directly from here? Either way works. And now let's go and set some up for the Banana Ridge library. Again, configure slots, add Banana Ridge, and let's say they work on Tuesdays from, let's say, okay, yeah, 8:15 through, what do we do, October 30th? And let's say maybe it's a smaller site, so maybe there's only 3 slots. I have a very small group of folks here, perhaps, and they're at 9:15. And 3 more at 10 o'clock, and 3 more at, say, 11:45, something like that. So we go click, and now you see that the additional dates have been added on Tuesdays, and the summary sheet then, or the page, shows them intertwined. If you want to look at one or the other, you can do that independently or both together, whatever works best for you, and you can go to the individual day. So that's how you set that up. Some more words about this. Once you have things set up and you've added people to the system, Clear allows you to take all of those names out. So if you have been playing around a little bit with the real schedule and letting your people do some training on it and so on, and put in fictitious names just to get a feel for the system, you can say clear and choose the site, all the dates and ranges, and then do go, and it'll clear all the names out for those schedules without eliminating your schedule itself. So definitely a handy thing to be able to do. Remove, you can choose again the site and the particular day that you're interested in, and it'll remove all of the empty slots. It will leave any slots that are reserved or have anything in them, but any empty slots it'll remove. Sometimes that's handy. For instance, if you discover that on September 11th your senior center is closed, then what you do is on Monday 9/11, you want to remove that, and you don't put in the slots, because you're going to remove the whole thing. And did it go away? Oh, I had some reserved slots there. It took everything but the reserved slots. So we can unreserve those slots. And let's go back and do it again. Again, Apple Valley, on Monday. Nine, 11. Go, and there they go. So that's a way that you can get rid of anomalies if you need to. So the fourth option on the appointment slot configurator is the start over option. In this case, it totally removes everything that you have for your site so that you can start over afresh. It's the only way of getting things that are on the deleted list off of the deleted list. It even gets rid of that. So before you do this, you might want to be sure and do an export to Excel in the event that you want to capture all of the appointment information from your year before you close down for the season. So click your site. You don't have to put in any dates or anything because you're going to take everything out. Click go, and then a little safety message comes up. Click OK, and everything's gone. Cleans it out for Banana Ridge, and you're ready for the next year. So that's all there is to it. I hope you have a good season, and hope this application works well for you.